Hello and welcome to the 19th video making simple floppy Robin for Android using Cocos2dx. I'll apologise already for any lawnmower sounds and things you hear coming through the mic. They're coming from outside. Can't prevent them, sorry, and I want to get this video done so we can start moving into the Android side of things. So this video then, I'll just give the application a quick run. Just so you can see that it's still working, or for my own, I haven't run it for a while. Yes, it's still working. And what we're going to do now is we're going to implement all the stuff that we ended up putting into these macros from the scaling factors and things. We're now going to put into practice and have a look at some resolutions. I'm going to do this scene by scene, so splash, hello world, and then settings. Some of the stuff, as you can imagine, is going to get a little bit repetitive. Feel free just to stop the video and download the code once you've understood what's going on. It's not really rocket science. It's a little bit dull, but anyway. Run game screen. For now, I'm going to comment that out so we just stay on the splash screen when we start up. We're setting up our scale factors here, and the first thing we need to declare is our array to hold our file names. And now what we want to do is, for each of our sprites, is get our file name. So we have our file name array, our length, the name, which is bg in this case, and then .png for the extension. And I'm just going to put this get file name on the top of each of our sprite declarations here, and fill in the names to try and get things to go quickly. So we want cloud here, Robin here. Sorry, something's popped up off the screens asking me for updates with something. No, thank you. Floor here, and BG still there as it is. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is put the file name in the place of what's inside the speech marks. Because remember, the get file name is getting the file name and appending the correct extension depending on what resolution we're using. Now we've done that, we need to look at the positioning of our sprite. And the background and the floor, the positions will stay as they are here because the floor is based at 0 by 0, the background in the middle of the screen. The Robin, however, needs to have its position in X and Y scaled. And you remember that inside constants we had, not inside GameManager.h, sorry, we had scale position, here it is. What we want to do then is just take this scale position, and for the clouds replace the CCP, and also for the Robin. Okay, the next thing we need to do is look at the scaling. I always do the scaling straight after I declared the sprite, before I position it or do anything like that. So I want to call the scale node XY for the background sprite, because we're going to scale it with the X scale and with the Y scale. And I want to do the same for the floor as well. However, for the Robin and the clouds, we're going to call the scale node using just the Y, because we want it to be the same proportions, i.e. circular in the case of the Robin, that it is in our normal planned resolution or our target resolution. I'll just put cloud 2 in here and cloud 1 in here, like so. So that's scaled and positioned our sprites on the screen as we require. The only other thing we need to do is deal with our labels, and we have inside here a scale font. So we'll scale our 48 fonts then using 48, and we'll scale our 24 font using the 24, like so that the font is correctly scaled. And the positioning of the fonts labels, like the background, don't matter. They're based on, one is based on the middle of the screen, the other one is based on the title. So that actually, if I just build now, should be all we need to do to get the scaling working. I'll just run it in its normal resolution, the application, and everything looks okay. And now let's change the resolution a bit. Let's, instead of going 960 by 640, which is 3:2 aspect ratio, let's go 960 to 576, which is a 5:3. So 576, and run again. So the Y has changed here, but you'll see that the application in terms of the positioning and everything looks just as good as it did before. The Robin's still round, the clouds are okay, and everything looks relatively normal. Let's make it a little bit more extreme and go to 540, which is 16 by 9. I'm not sure if there are any tablets with 16 by 9. and it still looks all okay, and the robin's round. And one last one now. Let's do the 800 by 480, which a lot of devices have, a lot of Android devices have. So 800 and 480 is having a pause. Scale factors 0.8, 1.0, -HD. I'm hoping it's going to pop up at some moment. I have this, good, there we are. And you can see again, things looking fine, clouds in the right proportion, fonts look okay. Now we've done that, that's all with our HD graphics. Let's force this to go down to 480 by 320, which is our normal resolution, but half the size. This should use now the ND graphics. Indeed, I can see just under the window here the -ND, and again, everything's looking all right. And now let's just, rather than going to the 480 by 320, let's do something silly like 480 by 270 to reduce the Y and make us have a really wide looking screen. And things are looking okay and in proportion. And one last one, so bore you to death. Let's go 400 by 300. Oops, by 300. I won't do as many, I promise, for each screen. I'm just completely checking. This also looks fine and alright. And let's just do our ultra high definition of one. Let's one as well. Let's go 1200 by 750, which is 1610. And see that things are looking reasonably okay. It should use the UHD here underneath. It's using UHD and things are looking nice and good on the screen. Okay then, so that's our scaling done then for the splash scene. I'm now just going to uncomment the splash scene here. And now let's go into the Hello World scene, which is the most involved that we have of all the changes that we need to make. But it's actually not too bad. We just have to make sure we don't really miss anything out when we're changing things. So the first place we need to go, I think, is into the Get Next tube. So I'm just going to scroll through and check through the code here that there's nothing being positioned or anything that I've missed. Upper or lower, spawn a tube, that's already got everything in there. The positions are all already set. They all come from the gaps. Okay, Get Next tube, here we are. So here we're going to need to get our file name again, as we've done before. And like I said, if this is now boring and plainly obvious, then feel free just to download the code. The name for this is tube, and we've got the extension as usual .png, like so. So now we'll drop this into the tube declaration here, so we're actually getting the right file name. And now with the tube, we also need to do our scale node Y, because we want to keep the proportions of the tube also the same. So we'll scale our tube in the Y like this. Then it gets initialized with its offsets, which have also been altered inside the constants, already been altered inside the constants file, so we don't need to do anything with those. And then it's added, and everything here then is okay. So scrolling down a bit further, game update I don't think needs anything, updating the labels. And now we come to this section here, which is the creating of the clouds. So the first thing we need to do for the cloud creation is the get file name. So we want car and file name, and you must be getting used to this by now, 32. And now we'll call the get file name, the length, and we want cloud to start with here, and .png. And then I'm just going to take this line here then and quickly drop that onto here for the mountain and here for the tree, except it's a tree. And here it's MOUNT for mount. And now inside the declaration here we can replace what's in the speech marks with the file name. And I have to do that, unfortunately, for all of these function calls here. And this is why it's better to do this point right at the start of your applications, to put into your game manager class or however you do it, this scaling stuff, so that you can get it going from the start. Don't need to do lots of copying and pasting. And the other thing we need to do is our scale position. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough today. So we just need to scale our position correctly so that for whatever our screen resolution, everything is placed in the right position. So the clouds are done, mountains are done, and trees are done. And you remember that the tree scale and the restart x's and things are all already adjusted inside the constants.h file. That means then that inside the add cloud function, we don't actually need to add anything or change anything inside this function at all. So the only thing we actually need to do now, I'm pretty sure, is just go down into the initialization function for the init here, and luckily enough things were set up at least, or there's some duplicated code, things were at least set up with constants initialized like this. So this first one here is the scale font macro, which we'll use to scale this font, and we'll also be using that to scale this 32 font here. And now the score position x then will be multiplied by the get scale x, and of course multiplied by the get scale factor, so whether we're at a half, 2 or 1. This will also happen for the y here, except we'll be using the get scale y, and I've got too many spaces in there. And now the settings gap will also use the get scale y, except obviously it's 24. Okay, that will make the positions in the x direction slightly different, but it doesn't really matter too much. I wanted it to look nicely proportionally positioned in the top corner. So again, underneath this we're going to need to do the file name stuff, so car file name, and you'll be glad to know, if you remember, the settings screen that we have to do doesn't have any sprites, so we won't be doing this. And now again it's the same code as we had for the splash screen, so we want our get file name with our file name, our length, our sprite name, and the extension. And I'm just going to drop this then above the floor sprite here and above the robin here, and the other things on here I think are all labels. Yes, they are. Good. Okay, so let's take the robin and the floor. Okay, that's that done, and now drop file name in here and drop file name in here and drop file name in here. And then, like I said in the other video, we need to scale our node XY for the background sprite. We want to do exactly the same thing, scale our node XY for the floor sprite. And for the robin, we want to apply our scale in the Y direction, just like we did in the splash layer. Now with the position of the robin start x has already been adjusted in the constants.h and the visible height divided by 2, so we don't actually need to do anything here at all, only changing for the position like we did in the splash layer here. In fact, that's making me think, what did I do in the splash layer for the robin's position? Did I use robin start x or something else? No, I used hard-coded coordinates. Okay, good. Sorry about that. I was thinking I'd done a double scaling then, which is always a danger. Okay, and now we're down then to the labels. And the labels here then have all their positions set, you'll notice, by our predefined constants at the top, which have already been scaled. Also the Ys and also the font sizes. So actually there shouldn't be anything to do with these labels at all. And the create clouds, we've already done all the scaling. So that should be it for the scaling. I'm just going to go back to 960 and 640 here, and here we won't look at so many resolutions and just run the application. By the way, I think the volume's turned off, you shouldn't hear it. Okay, so things are looking as they were on the splash screen, and you are hearing some music, never mind. Okay, I've turned that music off, or maybe you don't hear it on the recording, that's what I've done. Anyway, back from settings, and everything looks and seems to play okay, but this isn't the main test, of course, this is our standard resolution. So let's stop it, and now let's change the resolution back up to this. What did I do before? I did 1200 by 750, I think. Even if I didn't, I will now. So that's a different aspect ratio. Well, it's just completely different to what we've normally got, with X and Y is different as well. let's have a look what we end up with here. So we've got the good old pause that constantly seems to be happening. The music started, and where's the app? Okay, so we've got a screen now that's looking pretty good. Obviously it's a different size, but things seem to be okay at the top and at the top here. And now if I run the game, this is the crucial bit, and you'll see that everything looks as you were, pretty normal. The speeds, the feel of the robin bouncing feels the same as well, and everything seems to be going relatively okay. Good, let's set this up then with a smaller resolution to try. Let's try something that's really wide, so let's try 800 by 450. We'll just do one more after this, and then I'll be fairly satisfied that we're okay on this layer as well. So there's the splash screen, and let's run the game again. Now you can see it's a good deal wider, but the tubes are looking okay, and I get the feeling that the speed is also okay of the tubes as well. Obviously you could argue with a wider screen there's an advantage of seeing the tubes a little bit earlier, but everything seems to be running okay. The collision detection, by the way, still needs a little bit of working on. Okay then, so that's alright. Let's just test one more. Let's test 400 by 300, which is a little screen using our normal graphics and a more squashed up ratio than we are normally wanting to use. So there we have our simple floppy robin, and here's our screen. And again, things seem to be working relatively okay. The sprites look proportioned, the robin seems to be jumping okay. Good, okay, I'll let him crash. So we can be fairly satisfied actually that all of our scaling is working okay for lots of resolutions. So we've got one more screen to go through, and luckily this is the easiest screen of them all, because I don't actually think we use any code apart from any sprites. We just use labels, and this is the settings scene. I'm just going to go up to the top of the settings scene here and have a look at what is what. And everything here is already given in as an argument. And I think all we need to do actually in this is obviously we need to create our background sprite, and in fact I'm going to steal this code from the splash scene now to create the background sprite. So we've got this here, this, create, set position and add. So I'm just going to copy that brutally, go into the settings scene then, and just drop that in like this. Okay, so that we've created the sprite and everything like that. So the background's on okay, and now what we've got to deal with is the constants at the top here, and I'm pretty sure that's all. The only thing that we'll need to change is these, or are these. So the first thing we want is the gap to adjust, then will be the get scale x multiplied by the get scale factor, and the left gap will also get exactly the same treatment. The button to bottom will also, no, it'll get the Y treatment, won't it, because we're going to the bottom. And then the font size will have the 24, will go to scale font brackets 24. And I think we've set everything up in the, just having a quick look here. Yes, I think we've set everything up according to all of these gaps. So if I just run the application again with the small screen that we've got here, and just go into the settings screen, and that looks pretty much okay on the small screen. We'll just try one more resolution now, because I'm actually pretty sure things are working. Let's go back up to 1200 by, let's do something stupid like 730 and see how it deals with a 1200 by 730, which is a nonsensical resolution. Okay, that looks alright. That also looks pretty good and alright, and our settings also looks alright. Good, so that's it then for this video, and indeed we've actually reached a stage now in the game where the game, apart from obviously some tweaking and stuff that needs to be done, is more or less complete. What we need to do now is step into the Android side of things, where we're going to connect the application up with the Google Play services so we can have some achievements and leaderboards, and we'll also add an ad banner to the app as well, so I'll show you how that works. Before I do that though, the next video in the playlist will be the setting up of Cocos2dx in Eclipse, because there are always lots of posts about this online, about how you do it. And actually, if you open the README inside Cocos2dx, inside the Android project that you've created, you'll find step-by-step instructions that work on how to do it. But I'll do that anyway in a short video, and I'll do one for Windows as well. So they won't be labelled parts 20 and 21, but they'll be on the playlist following on from this video. So I hope you've enjoyed the series so far, and hope that made some sense, and see you in the next one. Thanks very much for watching.